Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
Happy Thursday, my friends. Welcome into Coffee Break. We are so excited because, of course, we have the one and only Andrew Mason is joining us just here in a second. Oh, there he is. Mace is back from the Super Bowl. He is ready to party and, of course, talk about all the things that the Broncos need to do this offseason. Should they be looking at a running back? Jake Browning, could he be the Broncos' next QB? There's a ton to dive into. Mace, we're happy to have you back here in the Mile High City for only a short period of time, but how are you, my friend?
I'm doing all right. How are you, Rachel?
I'm good. Now that the Super Bowl ends and Sean Payton is finally deciding to look at quarterback starting on Monday, I'm excited to kind of dive in a little bit deeper to see who actually the Broncos should be looking at, because the more and more it feels like they're going to be finding somebody in free agency and less one of those top three guys in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I know he said the meeting started on Monday, but look, he's on record talking about Caleb Williams in the 2022 season, okay?
Thank you.
I think he doth protest too much. I think his eyes have been a little more on quarterbacks for a while than he might admit there. But that's just, that's just the way he rolls. But I think that, first of all, his eyes on free agency. Sean Payton's history is reclamation projects, right?
Yeah.
Drew Brees was a reclamation project. He was coming off of surgery when he played for the San Diego Chargers when the New Orleans Saints signed him. Before that, he was the offensive coordinator with the Giants a couple of stints earlier. After there was a stint with the Cowboys in between. His quarterback for most of that time with the Giants was Kerry Collins. Kerry Collins was a former first-round pick, cut by the Panthers, not re-signed by the Saints. Reclamation project to end up taking the Giants to Super Bowl 35. For two of the seasons that he was the head coach in Dallas, it was Drew Bledsoe was his quarterback, who was in his 12th and 13th seasons. Not really reclamation, but still somebody who had, didn't have as much tread on the tires. So the history of Sean Payton is look around and see, okay, can I get more out of these quarterbacks than they've gotten, than talented quarterbacks than others have gotten in the past. Look even at Teddy Bridgewater and Jameis Winston in recent years in New Orleans, one of whom filled in for Drew Brees, one of whom succeeded Drew Brees for a brief time. So the history would say it's probably more likely to be a Mac Jones or a Sam Darnold type of quarterback.
But Mace, let's be honest, is there really a better recreation project than Russell Wilson right now? Because look at how it went from Seattle to Broncos to wherever he's going to go next. But I'm like, that seems to be the biggest storyline to me of getting a quarterback back on track.
Does it get better in year two? I think part of it is the evaluation of Russell Wilson last year and saying, okay, this isn't what I want. This isn't what fits in the offense.
Yeah.
Let's go see if someone else might be able to do that. Now, do I think they're going to look heavily at the draft? Yes. I think it's very possible we're looking at a draft pick and a free agent. I think it could, you may look up at the end of the day and see a free agent brought in or someone via a relatively low-cost trade, and then a draft pick. It may not be a draft pick until day 2 or even day 3, possibly. Although, I think J.J. McCarthy is probably the most interesting name to discuss in terms of if the Broncos pick a quarterback in round 1, because if you get the right free agent, then J.J. McCarthy can sit for a year, maybe more, and where McCarthy is in his development, he probably does need to sit for a little bit.
So that's so funny you say that, because Field Yates obviously yesterday came out with his mock draft and he has the Broncos taking J.J. McCarthy. But you freaked me out for a second when you were saying like second or third round pick, because I still fully expect them, even if it's just at number 12, to go with the quarterback that they hope can be the future. But do you really see J.J. McCarthy? I mean, I get it. He won a national championship, all of these things. You really think just sitting for 1 year that he could possibly, this is a big comparison, become a Patrick Mahomes or have a play sort of like Patrick Mahomes?
Well, let's say this. you can't expect anybody to be Patrick Mahomes,
It
right?
was a bad comparison, but you got what I
Thank you.
meant by like sitting down or like waiting it out for a little bit and then being ready to come in and like make his big debut almost.
Yeah, it might be the best thing for a quarterback. I mean, maybe even this is an extreme example, but Jordan Love sat for 3 years,
Yeah,
and even after that, the first half season was pretty rough. Look, when the Packers came to Denver back in October, you didn't get the indication that Jordan Love was going to be a long-term answer, right?
true.
Well, the second half of the season, he gets better, he improves, the switch flips, and now we're talking about, oh my goodness, the Packers went from Favre to Rodgers to now Jordan Love could be their quarterback for another decade. I mean, how lucky can you get? Well, I would say maybe there's some luck involved, but there's also a philosophy involved in that the Packers are very patient with the development of their young quarterbacks.
True.
Brett Favre had been in Atlanta the year before the Packers traded for him, so even though it wasn't a good year for Favre, he still had that year under his belt. Aaron Rodgers sat for 3. Jordan Love sat for 3. I don't think you're looking at J.J. McCarthy sitting for 3 years, but there is logic to saying, okay, let's let this young player go through the process, learn, and not be thrown out there for high leverage work until he's ready.
Hmm.
And that's where, if you get the right free agent of quality, you can play the long game. I mean, look, sitting here today, Rachel, you could sell me on Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy. Sam Darnold on like a 2-year contract and J.J. McCarthy in the draft. And I would be like, that's a great plan. Let's go forward, because we've seen evidence that Sam Darnold, when things are structured properly around him, can be a reasonably effective quarterback. Shoot, the Broncos, the Broncos have faced him 3 times. Sam Darnold's played well in each of those games. It's a small sample size, but it shows you that there's some talent there for Sam Darnold.
I think that's a name you're starting to like because I think of the number of conversations you and I have had, he always seems to come up. But another one that you had at denversports.com was Jake Browning. And I'm curious your thoughts on why he could possibly be a good fit for the Broncos.
Well, first, real quick on Sam Darnold, I did talk with him last week. We're going to have some stuff coming up here in the next few days at denversports.com from that
Love
conversation I had with Sam during Super Bowl week. Jake Browning, first of all, I thought he played well down the stretch, but it didn't really click for me until I talked with Boomer Esiason last week at the Super Bowl, and kind of pointed that, hey, you could trade for him. He's a low cost quarterback. Build a team around him, and then I went back and rewatched him. He's a quarterback that in a relatively structured offense can succeed. And Zach Taylor, of course, in Cincinnati, he's running the Shanahan-McVay offense. Browning played very well. I mean, say this for him. That Bengals team was left for dead when Joe Burrow got hurt. And remember, Joe Burrow had been battling that calf injury all season. Burrow wasn't himself. You could argue that this year, Browning played better than Burrow. This year. Doesn't mean that you wouldn't rather have Joe Burrow for the long term. But Jake Browning healthy was better than Joe Burrow playing clearly injured before he had that second injury to his wrist that ended his season. So if you look at a quarterback who has that kind of success in a structured scheme, a timing and rhythm scheme, it would translate to what Sean Payton does. Browning can make those intermediate throws. Here's the problem, and I point this out in my piece at denversports.com. If you're the Bengals, why would you let him go?
That was going to be my next question for you.
He's an exclusive rights free agent, so basically all you have to do is give him the league minimum contract, and he has to sign it, or he's not playing anywhere, right?
Yep.
And if you're the Bengals and somebody picks up the phone and says, hey, we'd like to talk to you about Jake Browning, they may say, okay, second-round pick, third-round pick. Well, if it's a second-round pick, the Broncos don't have it. If it's a third-round pick, do you really want to trade out of day 2?
Yes.
And completely, because you don't have another pick in day 2 for Jake Browning, who, again, I think he's a good, solid quarterback. Like, he could be a bridge. Like, I think Browning could be a 1.5 year bridge, and you wouldn't feel pressured to put the young quarterback who's your reserve in there. I think he could run this scheme effectively. But why would you do that when you could probably, there are quarterbacks that you could get on those prove it type of deals. Like, I mean, I think Sam Darnold would potentially sign a Baker Mayfield like contract for a place that gives him a good chance to start this year. And
Interesting.
then that is one thing about the Broncos situation, that you may get some quarterbacks who, if they signed elsewhere, they could get 5-6 million a year to be a backup.
Yeah.
If you're the Broncos, you're looking to save cap room wherever you can. You might be able to find somebody to come in for less to get
Be a
that
starter.
opportunity. Of course, the interesting thing there is, if you sign that quarterback, let's say Sam Darnold comes in on, uh, I'll give you a hypothetical one. We'll do the Baker Mayfield contract. It was 1 million on the cap, but it was 4 million total. Let's say Sam Darnold comes in 1 million 4 year, or 1 year $4 million. Okay,
Yep.
that means his cap figure for this year, if it's a $4 million cap figure, it's 3 million less than Jarrett Stidham, because Stidham had a 2 year $10 million deal that was the 3 million cap hit last year, 7 million cap hit this year.
Yeah.
Which is another thing about, keep pushing it off. Okay, fine, I will take the lower cap number and the bigger cap number later. But sometimes it adds up, and that's why I'm like, I don't like pushing it all into the future. Sometimes you just take the bill now rather than later. Anyway, it's my rant.
No, first of all, I love your rants. Don't ever stop them. My biggest thing about this, though, it feels like the Broncos can't afford to trade anymore. Like, they just can't afford to give up any more picks, or you could trade a player for player, but it just feels like anything draft related trading there, they've given up too much in the past 2 years, Mason. I just don't know how you
Yeah.
can build a championship team with the caps hit that they're going to take on so much, and afraid to give away a third round pick or whatever
Yeah.
it's going to be.
So, in a vacuum, I think Jake Browning would be really intriguing. The reality is, I think it's going to be more like a Sam Darnold, Jameis Winston. I mean, Mac Jones, his name gets tossed out there. There are, some old quotes from Sean Payton about Mac Jones have been dug up.
There's
Mac
a
Jones
lot
would
of quotes
require
from
trade.
Sean Payton that seem to be getting dug up recently.
Yes. He'll talk. Right?
Give him a cup of coffee, a cappuccino,
Yeah,
and Lord knows
couple
what
of
we're going to get out of him.
lattes, and you get him going, right?
What do you think of
So,
his Radio Row ramp? I don't know. He was just talking so much, Mace, that I don't think anything that he talked about was a good look for the Broncos.
what do you mean by that exactly? Like, what parts are not a good look? I'm curious to where you're coming from.
By saying, we haven't even started looking at the quarterbacks yet. I can't even tell you the rookies' numbers. I'm like, first of all, everyone knows that you're in the hunt for a quarterback right now. So you're telling me that you've waited until after the Super Bowl to start that, and now these 10-hour days are going to start up. I'm like, that's, first of all, not a good look. And I feel like everybody knows you're lying at that point. So there I was frustrated. I think we got a lot of the same BS that we've gotten about Russell Wilson and where that's going to go. And I just walked away from his interview, especially with Kay Adams, and I was just sitting there. I was like, I don't believe a single thing that's coming out of this man's mouth. And I want to so badly believe in what Sean Payton is going to do. But you also don't want to feel like you're being lied to as a fan, right?
Okay.
There's a sense of that I just feel like I'm being, tossed around, and I'm just like, oh, whatever. But I want a head coach that's going to tell me the truth so that I actually know what to expect in a sense. And I know they can't realistically do all of that, but there's authenticity to that,
Yeah, part of it is start with the Russell Wilson thing, keeping that open.
Yeah.
A reason why you do that is if you can somehow trade Russell Wilson, and there's a universe where Mark Rodgers and Russell Wilson go find a team, and then they restructure the deal, and that facilitates a trade. Okay.
So is that why all these rumors are coming out right now that the Broncos are open to keeping Russell Wilson? Is it more of a charade to get other teams to latch on and say, hey, well, maybe we want Russell Wilson?
A little bit, I would say yes. And it's if you say, oh, we're just moving on from him, then they'll wait for the cut. Right?
That's my point.
They'll
That's
wait
why
for
I've
the
been so
cut.
confused.
So why would you say, oh, well, we're done with him, until you explore that option of trading him? And again, you're getting pennies on the dollar. You get that, but it's still something as opposed to nothing,
Yeah.
right? You get a bit more, there's obviously the offset language in the contract, but we know if he gets cut and goes somewhere else, he's going to sign for the league minimum. That offset's going to be about $1 million. It's going to be piddling,
Yeah.
right? So you get a bit more, you get more offset. It doesn't, it's still a painful pill to swallow, but you do get more offset if you trade him.
Yeah.
That so that part of it is in the equation as well. And then if you say you haven't been looking at the quarterbacks, the rookie quarterbacks, then what you're saying is, oh well, in hand in hand with what you said about trying to, we can maybe get something done to bring Russell Wilson back. You're basically doubling down on that notion of, oh well, we could bring him back. So, as I interpreted it, this is all just part of the dance. And the easy thing for Sean to do would have been don't go to Radio Row, but he's got his thing with Zebra Technologies. That's why he was there. That's why he was there last year on Radio Row as well, was promoting that. Because the thing is, you go to Radio Row, everybody's promoting something, right?
For sure.
I mean, whether it's a charity, I talked with Alex Singleton, he was promoting Special Olympics, right?
I loved his shirts, by the way. I thought that they were so cool.
They're so cute. They're so good. And and it means it's, his sister is an athlete in the Special Olympics. So it's something that's really important
I love
to him.
that.
It was cool to kind of to see him out there plugging that. But yeah, you got people that are doing that, but then you have people that are promoting like a business or whatever, I think Mark Schlereth was promoting Low T over there,
Okay.
last week. So
Okay.
hey, I mean it's the name of the game, right?
Yeah.
And so he's at one point in the interviews, I think maybe it was KM said, well, let's talk about Zebra because that's part of it. You have to talk about the sponsor, the plug. That's the deal. You're getting the others. You're getting the couple of lattes Sean Payton, but then you're also getting the pitch man Sean Payton, right?
Exactly.
So
Well, he wasn't drinking lattes
why
on
he
that
shows
set,
up.
Mace. He was drinking something a little bit stronger on that set.
Oh, it was the morning. But then again, I mean, it's always 5 o'clock in Vegas, right? I mean,
Exactly. That is 100% the truth.
Gosh.
Last one for you, Mace. Which ones, or I guess your gut right now, are you saying that you feel in your gut that they could possibly draft JJ McCarthy at number 12? Or do you really truthfully believe that they're going to find a free agent QB that they think could be the future? Or is it both? Which one? What's your gut telling you?
My gut is telling me, even though I think they should draft a quarterback at 12, and that McCarthy probably makes the most sense as you kind of go through the process here.
Mace, you're giving me anxiety.
My gut is telling me it's going to be another position, that they'll get a developmental quarterback on day 2 or day 3, and that you'll have a free agent. And I'll just say this, all right? This is not how teams should make decisions. The late Johnny Red Kerr, longtime Chicago Bulls analyst, used to say if you listen to the fans, you'll end up sitting with them. But if you have a quarterback room of Jarrett Stidham, Sam Darnold, and Michael Pratt, I think it might be an intriguing room. And I think Pratt has some attributes that can work in a Sean Payton offense. But that is a ticket to have a fan base that is decidedly underwhelmed heading into the 2024 training camp.
Yeah.
Not that's how decisions shouldn't be made that way, but I'm saying don't be surprised if this is how it works. Like it's my way of saying brace yourself, Broncos country, if this happens, because it might happen.
Oh gosh, that just gave me anxiety right there. Well,
sorry. Look, if it's me, it's quarterback first, right?
Amen.
That's the thing, and it's taking shots at QB until you figure it out. And I like the idea. Look, again, if you said Sam Darnold comes in March, JJ McCarthy comes in April, I'd be like, great, I can get behind that. I think you've got a very good chance, whether it's the reclamation project or the young guy, of finding someone who can really help you improve, short and long term.
Oh,
right?
Fingers crossed all the way. Let's hope that this cycle can come to an end. I'm
But if you're
exhausted
Sean
from it.
Payton, but here's the thing. There's another, like I talked about at the start of the show about Sean Payton liking reclamation projects like that. His history involves reclamation projects of
Yes.
veterans, right? The other part of his history, Tony Romo, undrafted,
Yep.
2003, the first year Sean Payton is Dallas's offensive coordinator, gets Tony Romo in there and develops him for 3 years.
Yeah.
Payton takes the Saints job, and then Bill Parcells wrote about this in his book. Sean Payton wanted Tony Romo in New Orleans, tried to trade for him. Dallas refused.
Yeah.
And then he signed Drew Brees. So there's an alternate history for you. What if Dallas had traded Tony Romo to New Orleans? Where does Drew Brees go? Right?
Fair.
So again,
that would have been crazy.
So you literally undrafted. So a lower draft priority target or reclamation projects. That is Sean Payton's history. So just put that in everyone put that in your mental Rolodex.
Yeah, no kidding. Now you have my brain starting to really think too of like, okay, well, what could happen this year? Because Sean Payton really likes to build the quarterback exactly how he wants him.
I'll give you a name who got better Senior Bowl week over the course of the week. I thought he was not very good on Tuesday. Improved over the course of the week. Has some skills, needs some refinement. What about Spencer Rattler in round 5?
Interesting. I haven't looked at a whole lot of Spencer's tape, to be completely honest with you, because it's so far down and I expect them to draft somebody so early on. But it's an interesting name for sure. I know it's been thrown out a few times.
He'd be fascinating in a quarterback room to see, with working with Sean Payton for a year or two. And I'll say this, like there were a lot of critiques of his demeanor years ago coming out of the QB1 documentary. Had a chance to chat with him Senior Bowl week. The word I would use to describe him is humbled. He's been humbled. This doesn't, and I heard the same thing coming out of South Carolina. This is not the same guy that was off-putting to a lot of people a few years ago. And I think that will help him potentially go through a year or two developing, and I think he'll have the patience to go through that. So he does the skills are there, the talent is there. And again, the thing I liked about him is that he was. I like to see quarterbacks get better over the course of Senior Bowl week. That's one. Yeah. There's not a. You can't take a great deal, but you can take some things. And one of the things you can take is, do they incorporate teaching and apply it? Can they ingest it and then put it into their play on the field?
Yeah.
Rattler did that, and I thought was maybe the most improved player over the course of the week of the week, at least the quarterback position. And that's why, again, like if you told me, I mean, I still would go QB round 1, but if you told me Spencer Rattler round 5, I would be really intrigued by that and think, okay, let's check where this kid is in 2 years, because, and again, that's the Sean Payton thing, a quarterback who kind of passes through, and then you develop him and you work with him. I think Sean likes that work with a QB as well. Like he enjoys that, and maybe that's that's what he's looking for. Is he's looking for a student who fits him.
Yeah.
The teacher's looking for the right pupils here. So.
Interesting. Well, there's going to be a ton of scenarios that obviously come out over the next couple of months as we get ramped up for the draft. And of course, here in just a few weeks, we're going to find out what the heck's going to happen with Russell Wilson as well. Andrew Mason, appreciate your time as always.
My pleasure, Rachel.
All right. We do love having Andrew Mason on. He's always got good stuff over at denversports.com as well. So make sure you check that out. And we will see you guys tomorrow for a Friday episode of Coffee Break. Have a wonderful day. Get back to work, everybody. Bye.